Hey guys, I'm just on my way to the poker club in Kanawaki today. So the plan is, well, to grind Friday night and hopefully to run good. So I wanted to talk about boxing for this video. So my last boxing bet was a few weeks ago. I bet on the Anthony Joshua Daniel Dubois fight to go over 4.5 rounds. So going into that fight, I was almost for sure going to bet on Joshua at minus 400. I'd followed both of the careers of Joshua and Dubois, and in general, if I have two guys who I've followed a lot and then they're fighting each other, I always try and handicap that fight, because I think that's usually the best way to handicap is when there's two guys you've been following a lot and then they're fighting each other. You kind of you think you have a sense of what's going to happen since you think you know both fighters well. So for this fight, I was going to bet Joshua at minus 400, but my main problem was I didn't really like the idea of laying a lot on Joshua, considering he had a few losses that I thought were pretty uninspiring. I didn't like the way he lost to the Ruiz in the first fight, and I thought his first loss to Usyk also was pretty bad, the way he performed. But my main problem with why I didn't want to bet on Joshua was because Dubois looked pretty good in his last two fights against what I thought was, impressive competition. I thought he looked pretty impressive against, Jarrell Miller and Filip Hrgović, or whatever, however you say his name, Filip Hrgović. So I was pretty impressed with Dubois in those two fights, whereas Joshua's last 4 fights I all thought were really easy fights. I didn't think any of them were that impressive. I mean, if you think about it, he fought a guy, I think his name was Jeremy Franklin, and he went the distance, and he was supposed to, win easily. Then he fought Helenius, which was pretty unimpressive, considering it was the guy was on short week's notice, and the guy had just lost in 1 round to Wilder, and Joshua knocked him out in 7 rounds. I didn't really think that was too impressive either. So those 2 fights I didn't think were good. And then his next fight was a technical knockout against Otto Wallin, which was probably the most impressive of the best of all of his fights that he had, recent fights, even though that one too I didn't think was that good. I mean, Whalen's only good performance was a close fight with Fury, but if you look at Fury's career, he's always kind of performed to the level of his competition, right? So when Fury has a tough fight, it seems to rise to the occasion, whereas when he has an easy fight, he seems to, not train, not take it seriously, and then show up maybe with a poor performance, and he just wins a decision against someone he should, beat more easily. And then again, the same situation against Ngannou. Fury fought Ngannou, who's making his professional debut. Clearly, Fury took him pretty lightly, didn't train hard, didn't look like he was ready to fight, and somehow, had a bad fight against Ngannou, but still found a way to win decision. So anyway, Joshua's last two wins, or impressive wins if you want to call it that, were against Ngannou and Wallin, and I didn't think either of them was that good. So what my point was looking at the last 4 fights of Joshua and the last 2 of Dubois made me not want to bet Joshua. I didn't really want to bet on Dubois either, even though he was like a 4-1 underdog. It's just because, whatever. I guess you can say he did quit against Joe Joyce, but he had a broken eye socket, and it was early in his career, which I think kind of makes sense. If that's, it's not like he's fighting for the heavyweight championship, and he's young, and you figured, that he had a bad injury in his face, and that could have been they said if he had continued, it could have been career ending. So that, to me, that made sense to quit, if you want to call it that. But his fight against Usyk I thought was pretty bad. Dubois, I thought that one he clearly quit, because it was, he was losing on the cards, but he's a much bigger guy than Usyk, and because he's much bigger, I don't know how he could quit against a smaller fighter like that. You figure he always has a chance to knock him out, being so much bigger than him. I think he quit in round 9, and there was 3.5 rounds left. I thought that was very disappointing that he quit against Usyk. So that made me definitely not want to bet against Dubois, and I kind of found it hard to bet on either guy. And then, like I said, laying 4-1 on Joshua. In the end, I decided to go against it. So I did want to handicap the fight, because I followed both fighters. So I thought betting over 4.5 at minus 400 was a decent bet. I thought at the time. My kind of hope was that they were both going to come out kind of nervous. Another thing too, watching that fight was right before, before the fight started, if you watch the stare down and stuff, Dubois came out looking so intense and aggressive, and it looked like he was really ready to go. And in that moment, I was like, oh crap, I don't like my bet right now, because I'm worried, Dubois is going to get himself knocked out in the first round, or land a huge, maybe he'll knock out Joshua early, but just coming out so aggressively. he came out too dressed like Mike Tyson and everything, right? So you got the sense he was going to go full Mike Tyson on Joshua. So when watching that fight, I thought to myself, man, it looked like both of these guys were holding their breath in the first round. And I just thought, oh, can we just get out of this first round with no knockdowns and no big shots, and then they'll probably relax in between rounds, and then the fight can slow down and, ease into a normal boxing fight that should go, let's just say 8 rounds at least, right? That was my thinking. But anyways, that wasn't the case. They both, like I said, they both came out. Dubois came out pretty aggressive in that first round. I got the sense that both of them were holding their breath, and they were both intense, and neither one seemed relaxed. So I thought it was pretty likely someone could land a big punch in that first round. And Dubois did at the end of the round. Another thing too, just from watching that fight, is it made me think maybe I should try live betting or something, or waiting till the very last second to make my bets, because just watching that fight, seeing the pre-fight ceremony with the national anthems and the stare downs and all that, I really got a sense of how that fight was going to play out. I really thought watching that, like, oh, this fight's going to be a really aggressive fight early on, and I immediately was uncomfortable with the bet I'd made. So in the end, I ended up losing my bet barely, but I kind of got lucky that it went as long as it did. I thought it should have ended within 3 rounds the way that fight played out. I'm surprised his corner didn't stop it, or the ref didn't stop it. I thought Joshua got beat up pretty badly. I thought I took a lot of damage for it to go. So I needed it to go, midway through the 5th round, and I think I lost the fight by about 30 seconds. So it sucks. That was close. So watching that fight, I thought it was essentially over after the first round. I thought Dubois landed such a huge shot at the end of that first round, right on the chin of Joshua, and whatever people say is a glass jaw, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, so he took a big shot right at the end of that first round, and I thought it was pretty much over after that. I thought Joshua was not the same at all. I thought he was fighting on wobbly legs the whole rest of the fight. I guess it's impressive that he was able to last, 4 more rounds and make it into the 5th. But I thought, essentially after that first round, Joshua I thought he had no chance to win. And another thing too, I guess I could have bet, I don't know what the live betting was there, but look, let's say after the first round, maybe Dubois was like minus 200 or something, or minus 300 after that first round. Yeah, that would have probably been a pretty good bet to bet Dubois minus, maybe 200 or 300 after that first round, or whatever he was. To me, watching that fight, it looked like there was no way he was going to lose after that first round ended. Looks like I'm going to be stuck in traffic a little bit here. But, yeah, so anyway, so then Dubois just laid quite the beat down on Joshua. He knocked him down 4 times. Like I said, I was surprised the ref or the corner never stopped the fight. And looking at that fight too, it kind of reminded me, in terms of the amount of damage Joshua took, it kind of reminded me of the amount of damage Wilder took in his 3rd fight with Fury. So after Wilder's 3rd fight with Fury, he was never the same. He took a ton of damage, and then after that, I think he took a year off, and then he fought Helenius, who was an easy opponent. He won a first round knockout. And he lost the decision to Parker, where he was lost, a clear decision to Parker, and then he got knocked out by Zhilei Zhang after that, and it seems like his career is over at this point, Wilder. So I'm assuming Joshua's career is gonna take a similar turn at this point to how Wilder's career ended. So Joshua just took a ton of punishment against Dubois. I don't know where he's gonna go from here. I'm assuming he's gonna fight a few more times, but I imagine, he'll go maybe 3-2 or 2-2 over his next, let's say it goes 2-2 over his next 4 fights and then retires, something like that. I can't imagine Joshua going much longer. And I can't imagine him ever winning a belt again. But yeah, maybe he'll have a big fight against Fury or something. I was actually just thinking earlier today, I'd like to see Joshua and Ruiz 3. I think that would be a fun fight. See Joshua and Andy Ruiz fight for a 3rd time. To me, that'd be entertaining. And I just, I think they're in similar spots in their careers at this point. Another thing I thought was pretty funny is, so I remember, I think it was like 5 years ago. So I think 5 years ago, Joshua and Wilder had all the belts. So they had all 4 belts between them, and they were both undefeated, and it was like, a huge fight at the time that people were waiting for. It never happened. And it's funny to think that 5 years later, they've both lost 4 times. So they were both undefeated with all the belts, and now 5 years later, they've both lost 4 times, and they still never fought. And even now you hear people mention, oh, now Wilder and Joshua should finally fight, considering they're both at the end of their careers. But I don't really care to see that. So yeah, to me it seems Wilder's done, and I think Joshua's done too. But there is always a part of me that thinks I could see Wilder making it. I've always thought I could see Wilder making a comeback. I could see Wilder, you know, coming back with like a 3-year, you know, say 3-year break in between fights, you know, having like 3 tune-ups in 1 year and then maybe getting a title shot in the next year, something like that. I could see Wilder making one last push, especially if he takes a lot of time off and then comes up back with a bunch of tune-up fights. I would like to see Wilder do that. But yeah, to me, it seems like both Wilder and Joshua are finished at this point. So after losing that bet, I was pretty frustrated. I didn't bet much though. I was planning on betting more on the Joshua money line, and then I didn't. And then I was gonna bet a little more on the over/under, but I didn't. So then I just bet $100 to win $25. I just wanted to bet something. I wanted to try and handicap the fight because I'd followed both fighters a lot. But yeah, obviously it was a bad bet. And so after that, I was kind of frustrated, and I just thought to myself, you know, with heavyweight, I mean, I mostly follow heavyweight boxing, which is very hard to handicap at this point. And then I've always done well handicapping the lower weight classes, but I feel like right now there's kind of a turnover in those lower weight classes because it seems like there's a generational change right now. You know, you have guys like Canelo and Spence and whatever, Crawford and all those guys. They're kind of on their way out. They're at the end of their careers. Then I have the new guys who are coming up, and I really haven't followed any of the new guys in the low weight classes. The one bet, I mean, it's kind of frustrating the way things went with the timing, because I bet big on Spence and against Crawford, and I bet big on Garcia and Gervonta Davis's fight to go over 7.5 rounds. So I lost both those bets, and then I pretty much lost all my confidence. I didn't really bet much after that. I was betting very little, and I bet a little on Ryan Garcia versus Devin Haney. And I kind of think it sucks the way it all played out, because if things had gone in a normal time frame or something, I know I would have bet a lot on Garcia versus Haney as like a 6-1 underdog, because that was kind of my chance to make a lot of money, which I definitely missed out on. Anyways, going forward, I had so I put 500 on that Bet365 account, ran it up to 730, lost 100, so it was down to 630, and then I just took off the 500 to put on, because at this point, I mean, I don't know, I don't see myself doing much handicapping with boxing at the moment. I'm gonna follow it, and I'll let you guys know every time I do make a bet. I don't really see what big bets I'd have coming forward. And I'm gonna keep trying to handicap the heavyweights, because those are the guys I've been following. But I think it's very hard to handicap heavyweights, and I can't imagine betting big on any of the upcoming fights. One fight I could see myself betting on though would be probably betting the over on Usyk and Fury. So maybe betting over 10 rounds or something like that, or betting the fight to go the distance maybe. I'd be pretty surprised if there was a knockout, if somebody knocked someone else out in that fight. Even though I do think Fury can maybe knock out Usyk. I could see that. I actually think that would be more likely than the opposite, because, you know, Fury is a lot bigger, and it seems like he's going to have trouble outboxing Usyk. So maybe for Fury to win, you'd have to go for the knockout. And you figure Fury has to go for the win. So I don't know, maybe Fury will get himself knocked out. Who knows? Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I won't bet anything. I don't even know what I'll be betting at this point. But the one thing I probably will bet something on Trump to win the election. So whatever, I have $130 on my Bet365. That's all profit from this year. Since 2024, I'm up, whatever, 130 on Bet365. So maybe I'll just bet it all on Trump to win the election and go from there. I'll see. Anyways, what else is up? Not much, just heading to the poker club in Kanawaki. Hopefully I can run good. Oh yeah, it's pretty, also another thing about that poker club there is they have like a crazy bad beat jackpot, where they take $2 out of every pot to go into the bad beat jackpot. And the bad beat jackpot was recently at like I think it was at $2.3 million, which is pretty insane. But it got hit. But it's just crazy to think how big their jackpots get, because they take $2 out of every pot towards bad beat jackpot. But yeah, I mean, whatever. So hopefully I can get some luck or something. I don't know. Anyways, I guess I don't really have much else to say for today. I just wanted to recap a little bit about my boxing betting. And yeah, that's all for now. All right, guys, well, have a good weekend. See you guys. Bye.